Welcome to Recycled Oregon. Stay up to date with the current scrap trends and explore the daily life of managing a continuous stream of recycled metals. Delivered to you by B&K Auto Salvage and Recycling, here's today's host, Bo Boston.
Alright guys, it's Bo, Scrap Confidential. Welcome back to another episode of Recycled Oregon. Today we are in Baker City. I've got my good friend and fellow business owner, Keister, with me. We'll be talking to him today. Before we fire this thing off, big shout out to Barley Brown's Brewing and restaurant here in Baker City. They've got some fabulous beer we'll be consuming. Hope you all heard that sip. It tasted delicious. Yeah, big shout out to Barley Brown's. They're a huge member of the community here in Baker City, and great place to gather and meet. So I figured what better place than down here, drink beer, shoot shit, or talk about business, and see where it takes us. So let's dive in, Kenny. I met you in 2015, 2016, somewhere in there.
Yep, that's what I would say.
Had delivered some parts, and I think you were still working for the gentleman that owned the outfit before you at that time.
Correct.
I really didn't know you until I moved to town. Get here, and I feel like it's pretty shortly thereafter, about the same time, you acquired the business yourself.
I think you're right. That's a pretty good timeline. Yeah, I acquired the business from my stepdad, and in 2016 took over, and it's been rocking and rolling really ever since. Yeah, I've been dealing with Bo for quite some time, and Bo's helped us out a lot. We've developed quite a great relationship.
Yeah, we definitely have.
Yeah.
So the Windshield Doctor, you guys do glass, rock chips. I know this personally because I put a few miles on my pickups over the years, and I tend to be in probably on a monthly basis with rock chip.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I own the Windshield Doctor here in Baker City. Do all types of auto glass, on top of tractors, you name it. Our motto is, if it has wheels and windows, we'll work on it. So yeah, Bo's definitely been a good customer of ours over the years. Quite a few rock chips, the occasional windshield. Of course, the B&K fleet, same thing. They run a lot of miles. Things don't always go perfect. Sometimes catch a rock, and we're always there to help.
Yeah, sure. So let's discuss the window business just a little bit. I don't think everybody listening may understand what goes into the automotive or commercial glass business on the vehicle side of things. Probably seems fairly simple from the outside, but servicing you guys over the last 10 years via auto parts and the scrap side of the business, there's a lot more going on there than the average Joe would think. So why don't you give our listeners just a little background as to what goes into that, or what kind of the pillars of your business are?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely focus on windshields, windshield replacements, repairs, but I think a lot of the general public doesn't understand, and we do our best to advertise it the best way we can, but we do all windows, back windows, side windows, sunroofs. Your window won't roll down. We can fix you up with that too. We can put a new window regulator in it if that's the issue. Switches. Sometimes the mount for the window itself might break. A little bit of everything. And yeah, we've actually used B&K for some used parts more than one might think.
Yeah.
It's nice to have another source, especially readily available. Make a phone call and find out if it's an option or not. Just gives you something else to offer to the customer.
Sure.
I think even a lot of our customers, they come in for a windshield, and we might mention your window's not rolling up and down very well. I think we can help you out with that too. We've always tried to diagnose things for free and move on from there. And yeah, having a used part option has definitely helped.
So a little bit of a mechanical background on that, as far as realizing, hey, maybe the window's not the issue here, maybe the glass isn't the issue, but maybe it's something electronically or mechanically. You still got there's not many of us out there, but there's still a handful of those hand roll-up windows. And,
oh yeah, they're still out there. I mean, us as a small community in Eastern Oregon, we're working on things from the 50s and earlier even. I mean, it's still around. We're not a rusty environment, so a lot of this old stuff is still out, and a lot of people care about these old cars and keeping them on the road.
Yeah. Well, and the tractors too. I bet it's monthly. I drive by the shop, and there's a backhoe, excavator, or a tractor sitting there behind the shop. A lot of times too big to fit in the bay, and so the team's out there, 2-man crew, 3-man crew putting the window in. But
Exactly right.
with a lot of that glass, is that specialty? Is that something you can order? Do you have to cut that? Like, how does that work?
So most of all the newer equipment is going to be what I would call more modern glass. A lot of that's going to be curved, tempered, different types of glass that aren't as easily manufactured.
Sure.
A lot of the older equipment, I can actually manufacture the flat glass. I can buy it in a sheet, cut it down to
So
fit.
you are cutting it yourself on some of that old stuff?
Correct.
Cool.
Yep. Especially, some of the old county rigs that are the old snow plows and dump trucks that are still running, and all those side windows and back windows and windshields. Those are all flat glass, and we can still manufacture those in-house. As far as the newer tractors, unfortunately, most of those are going to be dealer-only parts. There's not a whole lot of wholesale out there. There's not a whole lot of options for used tractor parts available to me, especially on glass, because shipping tends to eat us alive.
Sure.
On those fragile products, they send them with a hefty bill to ship them.
Absolutely.
So therefore, getting a used item versus a brand new one typically doesn't really pencil out. So typically with my tractor customers, I feel for a lot of them. A lot of those aren't cheap parts. They tend to have the tractor in front of them, so I'll actually have them reach out to their dealer, their favorite parts guy, and get their window coming, and then we'll show up and do the install. Cool. It's the easiest way for me. Saves them a little bit of markup. I'm not buying parts that I can't return off of a tractor that I haven't seen, basically. Yeah. So we've just mitigated some of the risk, and so we kind of put that on a lot of the customers. But the agricultural world is a pretty good one.
It's big
as far
around
as glass
here
repair.
On that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of rocks in our soil and a lot of used tractors.
While we're on that used parts kick a little bit, I've delivered numerous parts, probably hundreds over the years. I know Jake's brought over a ton of parts as well, and all of our other guys that have delivered, or shoot, you guys swing by and pick them up sometimes you need them so bad. What's been the value of having a used parts availability somewhat close to you guys? I mean, the yard's in LeGrand, we're over here in Baker City, so there's a little bit of distance, but what's that done for your business in the time that you've been operating?
It's been great. It's again given me an option to give my customers a little bit more of the above and beyond care that I try to give to my customers. Hey, yeah, I think this could be working a little bit better, or I see you got a duct taped up window. I think I could get rid of your duct tape for you, And for us, the used parts, especially window regulators and I would say side windows and back windows, has been valuable to us because a common phrase in the auto world is aftermarket parts are a great place to start. They don't always fit right. They don't always work right. I've had window regulators show up with the wires crossed, so when you push the switch down, the window goes up, and so it's that kind of thing. And generally, the parts that you get out of parts rigs in the salvage yards are typically the original equipment. So, me personally, somebody comes in with a 2005 F-150 and needs a window regulator. 9 times out of 10, I think I would choose the used Ford regulator out of the Ford vehicle in the scrapyard than I would the aftermarket part, just because we've had some issues.
Sure.
I know that the Ford part fits. I know that it's worked for 100,000 miles or more, or whatever that vehicle had on it, and I know it's going to work. It's hard to guarantee a used part to a customer.
Sure.
And I always discuss that with them. But I would say 5 out of 10 times that customer is probably going to pick the used part based on my recommendation.
Does pricing come into that, or I mean, is it cost effective, or is it does it cost more? to buy for the used part rather than that new aftermarket?
It's hit and miss,
Is it?
honestly. Some of, like, say a window switch out of a vehicle, I might be able to hop online and buy it for $12, but I also could get it probably next day from B&K for the same price. Maybe less. It just depends on what it is.
Sure.
Availability. You guys have delivered parts to me twice a week if I need them. I mean, you guys have been coming over on Tuesdays and Thursdays for quite some time that I can remember, and so it's pretty well a guaranteed delivery. I know that when I order a part, it's going to show up on Tuesday or the following Thursday.
Or I've got a really good excuse for you.
Exactly. I mean, Bo's making that route all the time, so I'm not afraid to say Bo's probably stopped by on a Wednesday and a Friday as well. So, and having a guy, with a relationship that I've grown to with Bo, I can call him personally and ask him to grab that part before he leaves the yard instead of wait for the delivery guy. We've been super fortunate. We've had great availability.
What about the used glass while we're still there? I mean, I know we used to, it seemed like we used to sell more used glass. And I feel like maybe I just haven't delivered as much of it.
Yep.
But is there a range in vehicles where if it's 1990 and older, there's a better likelihood of finding that used than it is new, or has the aftermarket world caught up with what the demand is out there?
Again, kind of hit and miss on some of those. I would say some of the rare cars that aren't still on the road, the used glass is an amazing source. I mean, I can look around for a used windshield for an old VW bus or something like that.
Sure.
It makes it a great option. As a windshield replacement, we try to hold true to not using a used windshield. Windshields are a laminated glass, and they actually will deteriorate over time. Structurally, it breaks down the plastic in between the glass, and it just makes it not as structural as sound anymore. They might delaminate around the edges. They might have a rock chip in it. Also, typically, when you guys take them out with that process, they end up in our hands needing a little bit of time to get cleaned back up. And so a lot of times, as far as windshields specifically goes, I tend to try to talk my with a new piece of glass. They are intended to be a one-time use product. Have we made exceptions to that in the past and currently? Yes, there's always wiggle room on that, but that's kind of for the rare cars and really expensive or way cheaper alternatives.
So if you take the windshield out of it, the side glass, does that deteriorate the same?
No.
Okay.
So that's a tempered glass.
All right.
That's made with a heat process, and those parts are still great to me. Those are great. There's a great option. Hands down, yes.
Okay.
And definitely they can be cheaper. They can. Of course, we are dealing with used parts, so my customer has to be open to. I'm not the one that gets to go pick it out of the yard, so it might have a scratch or two in it, but it's a much cheaper, viable option.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there's a big difference between the tempered and laminated parts for us in the glass world, at least. So, but again, having that option to give my customers used versus new is amazing.
It's that's sweet. That's what we look for in the auto salvage side of the business, is definitely being able to offer businesses those options or those avenues, and leaving it to the customer at the end of the day, available to you.
Yep.
So
Yep, definitely.
we went over the value of that used glass. We did the cost on it. Quality, you said everything from us was just fabulous, so we covered that end of it. We went over availability. I'm just going over my list, guys, here of all the things we wanted to talk about. So now we're going to dive into the recycling side, since we've covered the auto salvage. And Kenny and me kind of briefed this before we started this deal today, and we were talking about, where does the glass go when we're done with it, and how can it be used, and what's a good option, what's a bad option. And it's fairly black and white right now. Doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of gray area. Kenny, with your glass, it sounds like a lot of it probably ends up towards a landfill at some point, just based off what the recycling options are in this area for the time being.
Yeah, unfortunately you are right. Most of all of our broken product goes to landfill.
Sure.
It's from my understanding with Bo, we've discussed this in the years past. I've been pretty gung ho on trying to find a way to do something with it. I think it would be a cool way to advertise that we got a leg up on the competition, trying to do something with our used product. Again, touching back to the windshields, they're a laminated glass product, and so they do have that layer of plastic in between them.
So it makes them dirty. They're not a pure.
It's not a pure product. It's
Yeah.
not like a glass bottle you buy in the store. It's got a lot of actual other material than glass in it. It's got a metal mirror button to it. It's got a lot of the new cars have plastic brackets glued to them too. Take more work than one would think it'd be worth. So
Yeah.
there are companies that advertise they do it, but they're in much bigger regions,
Sure.
have different availability than we do in this small community. And I mean, for this area, I think we're a pretty premier shop, but I still don't think that we produce the volume
Yeah.
that would make it beneficial for somebody to recycle.
Yeah.
And that's windshields, of course, and then tempered glass, when it breaks into a million little pieces.
Yep.
And by the time you get it all swept up off the floor, it's all contaminated.
Yeah.
So it's got dirt and debris and people's car trash and you name it, it's in there. So
Yep.
it unfortunately goes into the dumpster as well. So
But a positive on the recycling side, we've got a metal bin out back of your shop.
you do indeed.
And by golly, you guys do fill that from time to time.
You know, when I first took that bin on, I told Bo, I said, it might only get filled once a year, but you know, at least I'm recycling, right? And by golly, I think we empty it probably 3 or 4 times a
I'm
year.
gonna say, I guarantee you're probably quarterly. It
Yep.
might be your dishwasher from home, but
Exactly.
it does get filled.
Exactly right. Me and the employees, we find things to put in there. I'll say that. So
yeah, no, it's been a good fit. I'm always about having our bins at businesses and good-looking businesses. And if you guys listen and haven't been by the Windshield Doctor in Baker City, one of the cleanest shops in town. Aesthetically, extremely appealing, and I'm trying to follow suit. I still haven't caught up. None of our yards look near that clean. But it's nice to have a nice bin sitting there because it looks good for your business. It definitely looks good for my business with that bin there. And looking good for the customer is always a good thing. I think
yeah.
it makes everybody feel better.
Of course. I mean, people want to bring their car to somewhere where they think it's going to get taken care of, and we try to showcase that from the time you walk in to the time you walk out. And the time you walk out is when you're going to drive around and see the B&K bin out back. So we want that looking good too. So yeah, no, Bo's always been great about making sure we get a good looking dumpster too. It's because we are on a main drag and try to hold up a high standard for our
you got a
appearance.
look you're after.
Exactly.
We're going to chase that one.
Exactly. You know.
So
Yeah. But
no, that's good. That's good. Goodness, Kenny, are you coming on 10 years?
yes. Creeping up on 9 actually.
Creeping up on 9. Okay.
Yep, creeping up on 9. I'd do the math real fast, but
Okay.
yep, November will be 9 years.
Goodness.
So, but
Time flies.
it has.
We, for those of you that don't know us, first kind of got ripping together over here. We do pizza on Tuesday nights. We'd get done with work. Sometimes that was at 5:30. Sometimes that was at 6:30. It just kind of depended on the day for each of our schedules. And some nights we just didn't even make it. But we'd get together. We'd have pizza and a beer over at another local outfit that was open at the time, and we'd cuss and discuss. And the value from that, I think, and the value from from this podcast is the value in relationships in big and in small towns, and business to business and business to clientele, and knowing those people firsthand, first name, whether it's your client or it's the guys that you're working with. Because I don't look at the windshield doctor or a lot of our customers. I don't look at you as a customer. We look at you as friends, and we feel the same. And in some cases, it's family. We do so much together. We're a part of so many things together. It becomes family, and businesses create a culture within the community. And so I feel like that's what we've been able to grow in 9 years.
Definitely. I think you touched on it well. I think, yeah, this is a small community. I mean, even though B&K was largely, based in La Grande, it's still a small community. We all work together, and I think when a guy in business can find somebody that's going to cheer him on rather than put him down, it goes a long ways. So I think, us as being a little bit younger generation, to see us kind of find those guys that we like and trust and, can find value in each other and kind of thrive off of that, like it always ends up to a good thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you got anything else to say?
No, I think we've done great. Yeah, that's all I got.
Perfect. Well, Kenny, thank you. Once again, thanks to Barley Browns for hosting us today. The beer, I'm sure I'll end up paying for it before it's over, but they've been gracious enough to open up the place to us to put this podcast together. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, stay classy, keep on recycling.